Namaste, Jai Hind, and welcome to this edition of The Right Stand. I'm Anand Narsimhan. Here on The Right Stand, we have constantly unmasked Justin Trudeau's doublespeak. First, he blamed Bharat for involvement in Khalistani terrorists or K-goon and wanted gangster Hardeep Nijjar's killing. Then he denied having any substantial proof to his claim. Thereafter, we showed you how the Canadian Parliament is full of K sympathizers who have taken him for a right royal ride. And that is why his cavalier behavior was reflected when he blamed Bharat just on the basis of intel, without any credible proof. That the Canadian Prime Minister is heavily influenced by K elements is yet again proven with the state machinery's alleged open support to these K extremist groups. The recalled Indian envoy to Canada, Sanjay Verma, named as a person of interest in Hardeep Nijjar's killing, had called out Canada for backstabbing him and claiming that these extremists were deep assets of the Canadian intelligence or the CSIS. What has transpired in Canada is a case in point on how the law agencies have given, Canadian law agencies and Canadian authorities have given these anti-Bharat elements, these secessionist elements, a free run. Videos surfaced online showing law enforcement agencies clashing with temple goers, while Canadian leaders, including the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, criticized the attack. They openly remained mum on naming the perpetrators. None of them named these K goons, these K extremists. In fact, the attempt was to whitewash the attackers. Now, have a look at some of these pictures. Anti-Bharat slogans raised outside the Brampton temple in Canada, and this incident is from the 2nd of November. And the kind of language that is used, expletives were used, very, very unparliamentary language against Bharat, its leaders, its people. The cops were at the temple to restore order following altercations between these K extremists and members of the local Canadian Hindu community. But soon they were seen shielding these goons rather than arresting them. The temple was hosting a consular camp co-organized by the High Commission of Bharat when the incident occurred. A mob carrying flags associated with these K groups and their entire agenda, wielding sticks, lathis, disrupted the event, targeted members of the Canadian Hindu community, including women and children. The next set of visuals, Canadian police high-handedness and bias all but clear. The officers started attacking the devotees, those who were standing there, standing up to these K extremists. And the K goons who came to harass the temple goers, and there is video evidence that shows that it was these K goons who first used physical force and assault. None of them were arrested. The cops are actually pushing these people back despite their voiced protest, saying that you must act against them. Cops are seen targeting the Canadian Hindus and the people who are at the temple and shielding these K protesters. A red line has been crossed by these Canadian K extremists. That's what Chandra Arya has said in a post. He is sitting MP in Canada. The attack by these Khalistanis on Hindu Canadian devotees inside the premises of the Hindu Sabha temple in Brampton shows how deep and brazen has this Khalistani violent extremism become in Canada. I begin to feel that there is a small grain of truth in the reports that in addition to Canadian political apparatus, Khalistanis have effectively infiltrated into our law enforcement agencies, unquote. Visuals show Canada police dragging and detaining Hindu devotees outside the Lakshmi Narayan temple in Surrey. Once again, the K goons who actually caused the assault and the attacks there have been let free. Not a single one of these extremists has been arrested. So far, ladies and gentlemen, here on CNN News 18, we'll put out the data that since January 2022, none of the acts of vandalism on Hindu temples, Hindu institutions across Canada have been punished. None of the perpetrators who have committed arson, vandalism, break-in and also violence have been arrested so far. Canada police used force and assaulted members of the crowd outside the Hindu Sabha temple in Brampton, some of whom were waving the Bharatiya flag. To the extent that the Canadian police and Canadian authorities were trying to snatch away the Khalistan flags from some of these protesters, saying that you cannot touch this flag. This is the same lot that in the past has allowed these K goons to play football and also to burn our flag and insult it, and stop those who have said that no, you cannot insult the tricolor, the national flag of a nation. The MEA on Monday condemned the violence perpetrated by the extremists and separatists at the Hindu Sabha temple in Brampton. In a statement, the MEA spokesperson Randeep Jaiswal demanded from the Canadian government that those indulging in violence must be prosecuted. But the fact of the matter is, ladies and gentlemen, none of these goons have been arrested so far. The Canadian cops, the Canadian authorities, in fact, now face an allegation that one of their off-duty officials was part of these K extremists. He was seen outside and he's been identified and he's been marked. So far, the confirmation or denial from the Canadian authorities has not yet come. That's why we are not putting out those pictures. But it's going viral on social media, the claims, and this is Canadian journalists who are making this allegation. Canadian journalists saying that off-duty police personnel were part of these K goons in this violence and this disruption. Now, if you divide, you will be divided. Batoge to katoge. This slogan echoing in Canada now. The priest there of the Hindu Sabha temple telling Hindus, we need to unite against these extremists, these goons. We have got no fight or no bone to pick with anybody. But if they try and attack us and if they try and misbehave with us, we have to teach them a lesson, and we need to unite not for ourselves but for the coming generations, because this load of disinformation and this violent vitriolic agenda should be stemmed. It should stop. Sanatan and Sikhi go hand in hand. Sikhi is an offshoot of Sanatan and it finds its roots in Sanatan, and this is a reality that everybody must know. That's the message there, and we should fight back. We should not take this kind of gundagardi lying down. Meanwhile, CNN News 18 gets you yet another exclusive. Intel agencies believe that the attacks were a deliberate measure or a deliberate move during the Diwali-Deepavali festival. One, and secondly, the fact that these were consular agendas to try and provide pension certificates to Canadian Hindus and Canadian Indo-Canadians. And large number of them were Sikhs, so that they can continue to receive their pension. And this was deliberate attempt to disrupt. Meanwhile, the two temples in Canada came under attack on the same day. The Lakshmi Narayan Mandir in Surrey and a Hindu temple in Brampton. They were targeted. All these hate crimes have happened, and there has been no probe conclusively to catch and nab the perpetrators and punish them since 2022, like I was saying earlier. Since January 2022, there have been at least 10 incidents of vandalism, arson or violence against Hindu temples in Canada since 2022. In fact, if you just give me 30 seconds, I want to read out this entire laundry list, ladies. It's so many instances that the Trudeau administration has just overlooked. They have not done anything so far. Now, let me read it out. January 2022, vandalism at the Hindu temple in Toronto. April 2022, graffiti attack at a Hindu temple in Brampton. June 2022, arson at a Hindu temple in Hamilton. 2023, January 2023, vandalism at a Hindu temple in Windsor. Mississauga, March 2023, graffiti attack at a Hindu temple. Surrey, British Columbia, June 2023, break-in at a Hindu temple. 2024, vandalism at the BAPS Swaminarayan Mandir in Edmonton in July. September 2024, attack on the Hindu Sabha Mandir in Brampton. October 2024, vandalism at the Hindu temple in Calgary. And November 3rd, 2024, clash at the Hindu Sabha Mandir and of course the Mandir in Surrey, the Lakshmi Narayan Mandir in Surrey. So multiple instances that have happened. Now Hindu Sikh groups are now coming together. They are coming together against this K extremist agenda in Vancouver. 36 organizations passing a resolution against K agenda in Vancouver. Almost 1,000 Hindu and Sikh group members participated and passed a resolution to get rid of Khalistanis from these gurdwaras, which they claimed formed only 3 to 4% of the total Canadian Sikh population. Let's go across to our guests to get more understanding. Is it time to unite in this fight? Because this is an attack in Canada on Bharat. Dr. Vijay Chauthaiwale, in charge of the Foreign Affairs Department of the BJP, with us. Puneet Sahni, activist. Manish Puri of VHP Canada spokesperson. Canada VHP spokesperson is with us. So Canada VHP is a separate organization altogether, does not have anything to do with the VHP in Bharat. I just would like to clarify that. But Dr. Vijay Chauthaiwale, namaste. And namaste to Manish and Puneet. Namaste. I'm going to start with you, Dr. Chauthaiwale. I want to ask you, sir. This is a growing litany of incidents. I've just put out all the details here on the show. Why is this being allowed? Have you been able to speak with members there? What's actually going on, sir?
Anand, thanks for inviting me here. For last several days, I am in continuous conversation with the diaspora members in Canada, and they were knowing that something big might happen because of the atmosphere of intimidation that was growing in last 3 years, as you have chronicled in your opening remarks. The question here is that why the government, the police, who were fully aware of the sinister designs of K elements, prevented and did not make any attempt to prevent such attacks. It shows that they are not only mute spectators of this violence, but also they were equally responsible for this attack on Hindu community. So, even though it is highly deplorable, in fact, I am not very surprised by the level at which the Khalistani elements have gone far, and as you have entitled, they have literally crossed red line not by few inches but by several miles.
But what is encouraging them, Dr. Chothaiwale? What is encouraging them? इनके पीछे कौन खड़ा है? Who are these
Because
elements?
they don't fear the law. They don't. Yeah. Though they don't fear the law. In fact, they know that the Canadian establishment, the government, will only protect them, and even if they do something, it will be only a superficial action, and they have absolutely no fear of the police and the government.
But a lot of them have gone from here, isn't it? From Bharat, one generation before or now. How is it that they are allowed to perpetrate this fallacy and this entire falsitude? In fact, it's a load of bull dash 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 that Sanatan and Sikhi are different, and that Sikhi and Sanatan have got no connection with each other. How are they allowed to push this? There are elected councillors who are talking like that.
Absolutely. See, for many generations, Hindus and Sikhs have stayed together, they work together with a very good relations and also brotherhood. But the extremist Khalistani elements have now dominated the narrative, and with the tacit support of the Trudeau government has also helped them, emboldened them to influence the overall population in that country. I still believe that the majority of the Sikh community, overwhelming majority of the Sikh community in Canada is not pro-Khalistan. They are very keen to have brotherly relations with their Hindu brothers, which has been also exemplified by the statement by Hindu Sikh community organization joint statement, which you have also quoted. But that is the silent majority. Unfortunately, the K elements are much more vocal, and they have much more voice in today's Canada's establishment than the silent majority of Sikhs who would like to stay with Hindus and other communities in peace and in the fashion of brotherhood.
But what is it that can be done? Because those who speak up, they are intimidated, Dr. Chothaiwale. What happens is there is social defaming them. Their wives, children, their pictures are put out there, and then they carry these kind of things. This happened in the UK, they've done it in Australia, they've done it in Canada. They intimidate them brazenly, ensure that their businesses suffer, they go and create certain troubles there. So why is all of this being allowed to, fly under the radar? What is it that Bharat can do, or is it up to Indo-Canadians itself to take matters in their own hand?
The primary responsibility is on the Canadian administration and Indo-Canadian community in Canada, because how much communication they do it with each other in a right way and also in a reasonable manner will depends on it. But the international conspiracy against India and the people who have vowed to propagate this narrative, they need to be isolated both by the government as well as by the society, so that they don't get tacit or explicit encouragement, and that will actually be a great help to resolve this issue.
Dr. Saab, I have one more question before I bring in Manish and also Puneet here. You said international conspiracy. Till now, this entire K2 agenda, Kashmir and this Khalistan, was supposed to be an ISI bogey that was floated by them post 1971, after Pakistan itself was split into Pakistan and Bangladesh. And they said, Badle ke liye, they'll push this narrative. But now we see a very active Five Eyes involvement. Does that complicate matters? Does that lead us to believe that कोई है जो हमसे दोस्ती तो निभा रहा है, साथ साथ दुश्मनी भी निभा रहा है?
I think it does complicate the matter. I will also not put the entire communities in all the Western countries, the several countries which you have named like UK, Australia and US in the same bag or same bracket as that of Khalistani elements in Canada, because the fact that Canadian authorities are ignoring to its worst and supporting to this element, which is not the case in other countries. So there may be other law and order problems there also, but the administration has taken effective steps to nullify and to ensure that the future violence does not take place. Unfortunately, in Canada, these people have now they have become so bold, and they know that the administration will do, police authorities will do very little to prevent such kind of violent action, that has emboldened them. And to yesterday's violence in both the Hindu temples is the culmination of such a kind of emboldenment and tacit support of police and Canadian administration.
Dr. Vijay Chothaiwale, please stay on with us. I'll just bring in Manish and Puneet also with their comments, and then I'll come back to you, sir. Yes, Manish, there is a very clear call that's been given by a lot of Hindu Sangatans. They said that they are not going to allow any Canadian politician to step in and use their religious premises for any kind of political propaganda till there is action taken and an apology issued.
Yes, Anand, that is true. And the Hindu organizations are actually getting together. So are the Sikh organizations, as you mentioned, many Hindu Sikh organizations are actually realizing that being a silent majority is not going to help them anymore. And then they are starting to be very assertive. And that is the right way, actually. I agree with Dr. Chothaiwale that the Indo-Canadian community, the Hindu and Sikh community has to start becoming assertive to make sure their voices and concerns are heard by the politicians at all levels. This 3 to 4%, Khalistani elements have actually created havoc in Canada. They are keeping everybody at disadvantage by defaming the community, by defaming Canada and the entire establishment. The challenge is that they have infiltrated the entire ecosystem, right from governments at all levels, media, ecosystem, including institutions, universities, and they are very, very aggressive. And so Hindus and Sikhs, who are, who have lived together all throughout in Canada as well as globally, they need to stop being politically correct, learn from what is happening elsewhere, and start asserting the right information, their identity, make demands, make sure our voices are heard, and go out to vote in large numbers. Because the Canadian politicians know that these small minority populations hold a lot of key states and a lot of key ridings in the political arena, and so they play to their tunes. So we need to be assertive. We need to make sure our voices are heard, and we need to make sure the politicians are starting to take decisive actions against these Khalistani activists.
Puneet Sahni, you're there far over in the United States, but no Sikh organization in the US, no Sikh organization in Bharat has come out and openly condemned this kind of action that is bringing Sikhi a bad name.
So, Dr. Chothaiwale and Manish, I don't disagree with what they are saying, but I disagree how they are looking at it. Mr. Chothaiwale is talking about goals, and Mr. Manish is very rightly talking about, what is happening. बट वो इकबाल का शेर है, सुनी कायते अस्ती तो दरमियान से सुनी ना इब्तिदा की खबर है ना इंतहा मानू. Where did this nonsense stop from? So basically, you are dealing with like a mafia type operation, and you are saying Sikhi Sanatan. I agree, and I present it, and I've like made it. But what SGPC is propagating is a bootleg version of Islam, and tomorrow all of them will be jihadis. You have to see what kind of nonsense is being spread in the gurdwaras, and what this government has done is basically, I don't doubt their intentions, but they have basically removed the blacklist. So you are dealing with a mafia type operation. And you study mafia anywhere. I'm in New York, mafia was here, mafia is in every country. What can an ordinary person do? But the government has to crack down and set a deterrent on criminals. And what this government, in its very fine intentions, has done has systematically removed the deterrent. So the deterrent to speak against Khalistanis has become exponentially more in the last 10 years. And the deterrent to, abuse India has basically taken by the government. I just want to give you a fact. And, when the Khalistanis slaughtered thousands of Hindus in Punjab. Khalistanis displaced lakhs of Hindus in Punjab. But this is a fact, and I can give you the data. Do you know more Sikhs were killed, and I'm talking about civilians, more Sikhs were killed by Khalistanis in Punjab. Civilians. And the people who crushed the Khalistanis, people who defeated the Khalistanis, they were almost overwhelmingly Sikhs. What the government has done by saying, oh, something very bad happened to you, and they didn't apologize. You have given justification to these monsters. Whereas the Punjab policemen who showed, unspeakable courage and fought with suicidal patriotism, there is nobody to speak against them. But, you will be surprised that this Punjab policemen reach out to me, that we have been completely abandoned and thrown to the dogs. I give you an example, Anand. I give you an example. So, every day you are saying Indian Army, great, and you salute, and of course I also salute the Indian Army. But just compare. The Babbar Khalsa is the one who did the plane bombing and was the biggest terrorist organization. In 1992 or 3, the day the Babbar Khalsa leader, his name was Sukhdev Babbar, do you know the Khalistanis killed 37 policemen and 63 of their family members? And still the Punjab police and the Sikhs, stood up to fought against this Khalistanis. What they have done by, like appeasing, oh no, some, this, they have basically justified the Khalistanis. And they have, desecrated the sacrifices of the Punjab police. This is actually the problem. And the other problem is, after this Kisan Andolan, these Khalistanis are not just in Canada. Because of social media, they have hijacked the SGPC. So now you say you should not take out, celebrate the assassins of, Mrs. Indira Gandhi. The first thing they say is, this is happening in SGPC. So how can you say us not to do it? If you have the guts, if you have the power, stop it in India. And you have no answer of the problem. You can just say, जी वो अच्छा सिला दिया तूने मेरे प्यार का, आप गाते रहिए. भाई बदमाश है, आपको बदमाश को डील करना आता कि नहीं आता? प्रॉब्लम तो सारी ये है.
But the point is that Canadian authorities have to deal with the badmash. But Dr. Vijay Chauthaiwale, somewhere, it rankles. Did Bharat take this problem quite lightly? We witnessed this, and this has been building up since 2020, 2021. Did we as a nation take this lightly? Should we have flagged this earlier? And can we take harder steps to ensure that foreign soil is not used for an anti-Bharat agenda?
See, I appreciate and I have empathy for the sentiments of Punis Sahani ji. But the government has to look into the larger interest of every Indian citizen. As far as the anti-India sentiments abroad are going, there are a lot of subtle things happening. For example, the statement which you have said about the Hindu-Sikh joint statement about the peace and the harmony is one of many such attempts that have been made. Now the problem is quite deep-rooted and there is no easy solution, and therefore going only by the sentiments will not work. Each one of us will have to work very hard to bring these disgruntled elements, some of them back to mainstream, some of them needs to tell them what is wrong with their ideology, and there will be multiple such approaches. There is no single approach that is going to solve this issue. And I am very sure that the Prime Minister Modi and his government is doing everything whatever is in their hand to bring to or at least isolate these extremist elements.
One of the things is even the opposition has backed out in Canada. Pierre Poilievre also cancelled the Diwali celebrations, and he's also not named these K extremists. Most of the netas haven't.
No, because of again the vote bank politics. Because it is vote bank politics and the money politics. Majority of these groups heavily fund both the political parties, and in many constituencies, because these people they vote in the large number, their votes determine who is going to win or lose by a few hundred votes, and everyone is scared of that. So unless as this silent majority comes up, as Savarwalji was saying, and become politically active and they show their presence in a democratic fashion, these things will not change.
Manish, what are the Hindu groups going to do? We believe that there are going to be strong protests that are going to be lodged. Are there going to be some more concrete steps that are going to be taken?
Absolutely. So first of all, Vishwa Hindu Parishad in Canada is actually organizing a large protest today at the Mandir in Brampton, where this happened yesterday. And we are also pulling all organizations across Canada together as, coming on one platform. And I totally agree with Dr. Saab that the solution lies with the 1.5 million Hindu Canadians getting together and getting organized. This can be seen in Bangladesh, this can be seen in Pakistan, this can be seen in parts of India, everywhere, globally. If you are focused on just economic growth, more money, more growth, more, money and financial growth, it is not going to help you. If you are not politically active, if you are not assertive, if you are not getting your voices heard, if you are not asking politicians to do stuff for you and provide you a secure and safe home, then nobody is going to care for you. There will be only lip service. And this we should learn from examples across the world. And Hindu Canadians need to start getting active. And that is where, Anand, all organizations are coming together. We are having multiple discussions with large organizations, temples, to make sure we come on one platform and we are able to voice our concerns and make sure concrete, decisive steps are taken now. As Dr. Saab said, the red line has actually been crossed now with active violence against Hindu devotees at various mandirs.
Many are saying that this is also for the future generations. Do you believe, Puneet, that there must be active work on the soft side to correct this entire narrative which talks only post 1984? It tries to entirely erase, and there is this attempt at revisionism that the Hindu-Sikh history is started chronicled from 1984 onwards, not from the 14th, 15th century onwards.
Oh, you're absolutely right, Anand. And again, then it digresses into a problem, with the Jat community. And, basically they have tribalism. And, even in America, they had Peter and McCoy problem. And, in Haryana, you had, Balraj and Anup gang. So what they have is, blood feud. So the thing is, these Khalistanis who were defeated, and then it was basically Jat-Sikh civil war. On one side was Dharmik Jats under KPS Gill, and the other side were, this Khalistani dogs, puppets of the ISI. And what happened was, when they were completely defeated, and they were defeated by the Jat-Sikhs in Punjab, they fled to Canada. And, they have a thing of blood feud. They are not interested in justice or secure anything. Unhone mera bhai mara, main isko marunga. And this is, you have to understand the culture, because, I tell you, not a single guru was a Jat-Sikh. But if you look at the list of all the biggest commanders, who were in KCF, KLF, all of them were Jat. But again, the police who were fighting them was also Jat. So they just don't have any understanding of, what was the problem. And I give you an example. So, for example, Maninder Singh Bitta, you should interview him. He was the bravest voice against Khalistani terrorism.
Yeah.
So the people who bomb blast him, they have basically fled to Canada. Canada, they took refuge in Canada. They have become really rich, and they are fighting the cases here. And Bitta has to fight with his own money and to the court cases. And there are people in the government who are saying, why don't you compromise? So this is the thing. All these people who have killed thousands of people, they are those who survived, they went to Canada, and all their families are in Canada. And that's why. And they from Canada are fighting a blood feud, and they want to kill you. And if they say they want to kill you, believe them. Don't act like Dr. Chothaiwale is saying, this is the fundamental problem of the BJP. What Congress was with Pakistan, नहीं इनका दिल जीत लेंगे, ये हमारे भाई है, दोनों तरीके होने चाहिए. नहीं भाई, डेटरेंट है. अगर वो कह रहे हैं तुम्हें मारना चाहते हैं, उसकी बात मान लो, तुम अपना दिमाग मत लगाओ. यही बीजेपी की बेवकूफी है. हमको लगता है वो खालिस्तानी क्या कह रहे हैं, सुनो तो सही भाई. अगर तुम्हारे पास नहीं है, कोई पंजाबी ट्रांसलेटर ले लो, वो बोल क्या रहे हैं. उन्होंने before 1984 killings, this WSO, in their inaugural meeting, they said we will not rest till we kill 50,000 Hindus. And they almost achieved it. And the person who stopped it was KPS Gill. Otherwise, they would have killed 50,000 Hindus.
Correct.
So believe what they are saying.
So you're saying that they are firm on their agenda and should not be taken lightly. Dr. Chothaiwale, please don't take what Puneet is saying as words to heart. He's just sentimentally overwhelmed, and that's why he's saying that what we're committing is wrong, that we should be aware of what the threat that they pose, and that's because is it going to reflect closer home? So if the problem started closer home, Dr. Chothaiwale, is the remedy also possible closer home? Can things be fixed closer home for us here in Punjab, so that the narrative is set right over on foreign soil? Is that possible?
See, I am not getting angry with Puneet ji. I fully empathize with his sentiments, but he can say, he has a freedom to say a lot of things which I don't have. Coming back to you, I believe that the Canadian problem is unique in its way. It has nothing to do, no, I will not say nothing to do, but it is significantly disconnected by the Sikh sentiments across the world, especially with that of India. And Canada, because of the so many factors like disconnect from India, a very high rate of unemployment or literacy, the drug trafficking, crime, political entitlement. There are so many factors that have accumulated in Canada, and it has become a kind of a perfect plot for the Khalistani movement. And today's result, we are seeing it, that they are not willing to listen to anyone. So eventually, and you have actually reported 2 days ago, the largest drug haul in Canada with $500 million cash, if I am not wrong, and another drugs worth another 500 million, unheard of anywhere. And who was that person? Again from the same elements.
Correct.
So Canada has a much larger problem than the rest of the world, including India, and I will not therefore try to connect and make 1 + 1 2. Canadian government and society has to think that how far they are going to tolerate these elements which are in a self-destruction mode.
Correct. I think that's something which we have been saying repeatedly to Canada, that these snakes in your own backyard will come back to bite you. Don't encourage them, and don't think that you can try and control them. They will spiral out of control, and it's going to be detrimental to the country. We've got a reaction from one of the volunteers or from one of the devotees at the temple. It's a lady who's spoken. Just let's listen to this.
तो यहाँ पर इंडियन कंसुलेट की ओर से लाइफ सर्टिफिकेट, जो ओल्ड पीपल होते हैं जो जिंदा है कि नहीं, वो लाइफ सर्टिफिकेट यहाँ देना था रिटायरमेंट लोगों का. तो मेरी ड्यूटी लगी थी. जब मैं आई 12 बजे, तो यहाँ पर 4 बंदे हमारे प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे थे. खालिस्तानी बहुत ज्यादा आगे हुए.
कितने बजे? करीब 12 बजे.
12 बजे जब मैं आई तो वो लोग 11 बजे से आगे हुए. उन्होंने हमारे पे लाठी चार्ज किया खालिस्तानी लोगों ने. मेरे पास सारी वीडियो है. हमें भागना पड़ा वहाँ से. मुझे भी मारा. 2-3 पुलिस वाले थे, उन्होंने हमें लाठी से मारा.
पुलिस वालों ने
लाठी से हमें मारा. मेरे पास वीडियो है. बहुत गंदे से हिंदुओं के साथ बिहेव किया.
तो वो जो खालिस्तानी जो अटैक कर रहे थे, उनको कुछ नहीं बोला उन्होंने? कुछ
भी नहीं बोल रहे थे. हम बार-बार और दूसरी बात, चलो आ भी गए वो लोग, हम बार-बार उनको आराम से कह रहे थे कि आप लोग, पुलिस वालों को कह रही थी, आप लोग उनको बोलो कि चले जाए. वो बोलते नहीं, हम नहीं कह सकते.
So they can't tell these goons to get out of a temple where they are supposed to have got permission only for peaceful protest, but they have raised the lathis and beaten up the members who are there for this entire consular camp. Dr. Saab, you're saying something? Final words, sir. I've got to wind up after this. That's what the lady is saying.
I guess it's a very tragic and a very honest statement by this lady. and I appreciate her courage to come on the camera and tell her story. There are many such videos that have come to me also, and every video makes you more painful and at the same time more angry about what's happening in Canada. We can just hope that the better sense will prevail within the Canadian police and Canadian government. It is their primary responsibility to protect Hindu in that country, Hindu temples, Hindu institutions and Hindu lives, and in this case at least they have miserably failed. Therefore, as I told you in the beginning, that simple condemnation of this attack is not enough. It is the action of against who has perpetrated this crime will determine the sincerity of Trudeau government.
Ji. Yes, Puneet. I have to wind up. Yes.
Last sentence. So, I've been coming on Anand's show for 2 years, and I would request, please go back and you can judge, what I was saying 2 years ago is like coming true or not. So I may have spoken with a lot of passion, but I was not emotional. I spoke on facts and, with full rationality. So if I've offended somebody, I apologize, but please go back and judge for yourself.
No, you've not been, and that's the reason why I totally understand where you're coming from. It's frustrating because there are so many people who have come out and said over the last 2-3 years कि ये होने वाला है, we should preempt it, we should not allow this to happen, but it's come to pass. But some things have to happen for people to realize and society to realize, and perhaps nations and communities to realize what these people and what their real agenda is. And we will continue to expose them and work against their machinations. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very, very much for your time, and appreciate your thoughts and views. But before we wind up, ladies and gentlemen, and take a break, here's what it is. On the right stand, we've thrown light and we'll continue to attempt to throw light on the Sanatan connection with Sikhi and how Sikhi is rooted in Sanatan ways and about the Hindu way of life here in Hindustan. Now, try and understand. First up, we'll call out this agenda of the K-goons. They have a map which only wants to divide Bharat. It's got nothing to do with the Punjab or the Khalsa rule or the land for Khalsas, because their map does not talk about the actual Sikh empire of Raja Ranjit Singh, because they forget Nankana Sahib, Kartarpur Sahib, Punjab Sahib, and also the entire land that is Punjab in Pakistan. It's not part of their map. So if you superimpose this, this is what it is. The Sikh empire in 1839 under Raja Ranjit Singh includes everything which is outside of this Khalistan demand. This is where they are demanding. And this is all sovereign Bharatiya territory. But all of this land which is into now Chinese occupied territory or Tibet, and also Gilgit-Baltistan and also Pakistan occupied territory, some parts of Afghanistan, none of this is part of their demands. So we expose them that this is nothing but a secessionist agenda that wants parts of Himachal Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand and Haryana. The other thing, the flag of Maharaja Ranjit Singh Ji, his army depicts, let's look at the flag, depicts right at the center Goddess Chandi with Lord Bhairav on the left and also Lord Hanuman on the right. Now this is the picture. Now have a look at this. This is the flag of Raja Ranjit Singh Ji. The Sikh warriors use symbols of Hinduism before warfare. And here's where the K-Bogi spews venom against Hindu Astha and says Hinduism and Sikhi are two separate entities altogether. They have no connection with each other. It's false. Look at this. Hanuman, that's Bajrang Bali, and on the other side it's Shivji, and in between it's the goddess herself, Chandi. The Brahma Kavach in the Dasam Granth of Guru Gobind Singh Ji says, you are the goddess of creation. You are Lakshmi and Vishnu's power. You are of Shiva himself, the Shakti of Shakta. This mantra invoking Hindu gods was supposed to be read 32 times daily as per the Dasam Granth for fearlessness, protection, fortune, wealth and protection overall. And this was perhaps supposed to be part of the what concerns the double-edged sword of the Sikhs and the power where it comes from. That's the source, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take a very short break. When we come back, it's a very strong letter that's been penned by Captain Amrinder Singh. We'll start with that when we're back. Stay with us.